pedal in the lane, moving fast, ayy, ayy. Let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
Hey guys, before we jump into the episode, I want to let you know this brought to you by the National Motor Freight Traffic Association. Do you ship LTL freight? Then you need to be ready for July 19th. Major changes are coming to the NMFC, classification shifts, density-based reclassifications, and more. Don't get blindsided. Visit nmfcchanges.com to get prepared with official resources from the NMFTA. Not sure if your NMFC numbers are affected? Use the NMFC item lookup tool at getclassification.com. Just enter a single item or upload hundreds and instantly see if your items are being reclassified or renumbered. It's time to get it together. These NMFC changes will impact how you quote, route, and bill your LTL freight. Visit nmfcchanges.com now for tools built specifically for 3PLs and shippers just like you. Stay ahead. Don't let July 19th catch you off guard. This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, you guys, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Wednesday, everybody. It is Wednesday. It's a holiday week. My days are all messed up here. And but what is messed up is our topic of conversation, but not my guest. And that's cybersecurity, you guys, and where we are as an industry. And I am admittedly in love with cybersecurity at this point. I've been going to the NMFTA puts on a cybersecurity conference every year. I've been to like 3 of them. And it's just made me think so much differently about where we are as an industry, where things are trending, and what like real vulnerabilities are out there. So I have none other than Melanie Padron on the show to break all of this down. Melanie, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Thanks, Chris, for having me on the show. So great to be here.
No, I mean, honestly, how I noticed is you were, I saw a couple of your posts out there, and you had some really good video as well in those posts. And I was just like, yes, we need to talk about that more. And then especially from a cyber perspective. And, before we get into any of that though, Melanie, like, how'd you get your start in all of this? Kind of like what brought you into this?
Oh, it's a good story. I spent 20 years in the insurance industry helping businesses recover after losses, and had an opportunity come up in cybersecurity, which honestly, it's really similar. You're still helping businesses understand, manage, and mitigate their risks. But now I think I'm doing something even better, because I'm on the proactive cybersecurity side, and I'm helping to prevent loss in the first place. As far as my background in trucking, I grew up working in my family's chain of convenience stores, watching truckers come in and out and keep our tanks filled and our shelves stocked. My aunt and uncle were also owner operators who, crossed America delivering really all kinds of freight. So, I've been right there in the trenches with trucking companies when cyber attacks hit. And gosh, I've experienced that panic, and I've helped pick up the pieces after they've come to us with systems encrypted and ransom demands. But the flip side is that I've also helped fend off and avoid attacks altogether at companies that have taken that proactive approach to cybersecurity.
And that is, I think, with where we are as a society right now, is like there's a ton of threats, and it's a timely conversation, Melanie, just with it being the 4th of July this week, and there's always, travel disruptions that are on, people's radars and stuff like that. And, and there has been some pretty high profile cyber attacks here over the last 24 months. And to me, it's like there's never a bad time to talk about this, and then especially inside of the freight industry, right? Because yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a history buff, but I truly enjoy reading history. And the first thing enemies always tried to cut off was supply lines. That was the very first thing. It was the first choke point in war. And I feel like that's kind of like where we are as an industry now. And I've had plenty of people come on the show, and it all kind of goes back to that to me, where it's like, if I was going to cripple somebody, cut off their supply lines, and with where things are now with cargo theft, and where it's taking a digital stance, right? Because it's not like I'm a big Fast and Furious fan. I don't know if you guys are, but like that, I can't believe there's like 20 movies at this point. But that's the thing, right? Those days of like chasing down a truck and stealing the product, that's gone essentially, right? I'm sure it's still out there, but like there's different ways that things are going now. So like, what are you seeing out there? Like, what are some of those top threats to the industry right now, do you think?
Well, we're always going to have to deal with ransomware. That's a big one. That's something that we help trucking companies with all the time. But I would also say you're right on target. Cyber-enabled cargo theft and API security are some of the biggest things that we're dealing with right now. And that we're a prime target because we kind of sit at this high-risk intersection of technology and logistics. I mean, from ELDs and telematics to dispatch software and load boards, like digital tools are in nearly every part of our operations. And it just simply creates more doorways for attackers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, at the same time, we're moving that high value, time critical freight, which makes disruption incredibly costly. And it's that urgency. Hackers know it and they bank on it, literally. And if I'm being honest with you, cybersecurity hasn't always kept pace in our industry. And I don't know if that's necessarily because of tight budgets or old legacy systems or just a lack of awareness, but many companies are still playing catch up with their cybersecurity.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
just, it's cliche, but the reality is it's not, if you're in this industry, it's not if you'll be targeted. It's whether you're going to be prepared when it happens. And when it comes to cyber attacks, preparation isn't just protection, it's power.
Yeah. And I look at it like, I feel like, again, I'm not speaking for the industry, but I feel like a lot of people don't think they're a target because like 90% of the industry is small business at the end of the day. And I feel like a lot of people are like, they're not going to notice us. And that is where I feel like that's mistake number one, because it's easier to steal $1 from 100 people than it is to steal $100 from one person. And I feel like the small businesses that are out there, I don't want to say like are just as vulnerable, but like you are just like that. You are not going to be a target essentially, right? Because it's going to be easy to come in and take money from you from that perspective, because it's like, it just takes one phishing email, right? And it's like, I had something happen to us here where I'm like, again, fortunately there was no links, because if there's literally one thing that I've taken away from all the cyber conferences that I've been out, and do not click on links inside of emails. But I had a quote come through and something just didn't seem right. And then I was like, before it got to the point, I was like, I'm going to double check the web address. I'm going to double check everything. And boom, I found it in there. There was a spelling error in the web address. The company name, they used a real company name. They used a real company address. Everything was there except for one letter was off in the email. And it wasn't even like a something at Gmail. It was a legit web address out there. And again, there was one spelling error. And I was like, fortunately, I stopped it in that moment, even though I had provided a quote, but I'm like, I'm not going to go any further. I ended it. And I called the original company that was there. And I'm like, hey, FYI, I think this happened to you guys. And they're like, yeah, you are like literally the 8th phone call we've got in the last 2 weeks. Somebody's trying to get you to do that. And I'm like, man, it was that close, right? Because when you're out there prospecting a ton of people in this industry, Melanie, a lot of names and a lot of companies are kind of synonymous after a while. And then you're like, did I reach out to them? Did I give them an email? Because it was like picking up at a place local here in Arizona. And I'm like, maybe I stopped by at this place. I don't remember. And yeah, it was. But fortunately, I caught it before any banking information was transferred over. None of that stuff.
Good job, Chris. I will say one thing to the I'm too small to be on a criminal's radar. Let me tell you, if you hear me say one thing, it's that you're not too small to be hacked. You're probably just too small to make the news. We hear about the big sensationalized, hacks, right? We don't hear about the smaller companies, but I deal with them every single day. They're happening.
And that's the thing, right? Where it's like the ones that we hear about are so small that you don't think it's happening at any given moment that's going on out there. And, it's like, I watched a truck get hacked in Houston at the NMFTA cyber conference a couple of years ago. And like everything is on the table now at this point. And, so like, let's talk about cyber enabled cargo theft though, because I feel like this is kind of two of the, like cargo theft is a very hot topic right now, but like cybersecurity is one for me that I'm in love with. How does it work? What is cyber enabled cargo theft? How does it work? What does that look like?
All right. So you're right. It's a super hot topic. So cyber-enabled cargo theft is the use of a digital tool plus a cyber technique to steal physical freight. And, the criminals are doing things like they're getting really tricky. To your point, it's not just an easy misspelling. They're spoofing legitimate carriers' identity, using stolen MC and DOT information. They are phishing dispatchers or brokers looking to get those login credentials. Sometimes they're hacking into TMS systems to, reroute or cancel loads, even going so far as to create fake load boards and fake websites. So they're really using deep fakes these days and AI generated documents. You have to look at those certificates of insurance and bills of lading. An example of this, if you think about it, if a criminal hacks into a broker's TMS, they spoof the carrier's identity, they call the shipper pretending to be the assigned driver. They're showing up with falsified documents. They're picking up the freight. And then you know what? They just vanish. No one's paid and the load is gone. So cyber-enabled cargo theft is, I always say it's a cyber twist on an old school heist. It's the modern evolution of freight crime because it blends digital and physical strategies. But the end goal is still the same, and that's to steal the shipment.
What are they doing, to like when we're talking about deepfakes and everything else, like what tactics are they doing to try and get in there and infiltrate, whether it's a broker, a shipper, or something like that, right? Because when it comes down to it, I feel like a lot of what is out there, and again, this could be a hot take for some people, Melanie, I feel like the majority of cargo theft is an inside job. I feel like organized crime is way more involved in it than people want to openly admit. And to me, it's like, I feel like they're going in there, I think it's like the old school mob way of they're going in, they're finding a dock worker, they're giving them, hypothetical $10,000 in cash. And they're like, let us know when these 5 trucks are going to be available. And I feel like this is where a lot of it originates from. And for me, a lot of it comes down to like the news that I see out there. And I don't believe in coincidences at all. And then especially when they know what rail car to take in, like all of a sudden it's just like a rail car of Panasonic TVs and all over the LA news a couple of years ago. Like I don't believe in coincidences at that point, right? But I feel like now the evolution of where things are, it's going to be a lot easier for people to spoof others out there where they're going to think it's real.
Yeah, and you probably know a lot more of it from the logistics side than I do. I can help you think of some red flags to look for. Things like MC numbers that don't match the company name, phone, or email domain. Criminals will also, they'll push for fast payments or quick load assignments. So any pressure or sense of urgency should always trigger a red flag in your head to just slow down and take a deep breath and let's double check some of this stuff. You mentioned things like looking at the email addresses, but it's not always that simple anymore. They're not blatant misspellings. Sometimes it's just little things like caller accents or grammar issues in emails or odd working hours can be clues. We're piecing together a puzzle here, right? I would say rate clones that are slightly altered from your system or what the broker provided. And even changes like requests to change things unexpectedly, which kind of goes back to the sense of urgency thing. Criminals know that when we're rushed, we make mistakes and they're counting on it. And that's why what you did when you really looked at the one letter that was misspelled in that email, I mean, that's what ended up your spidey senses went off. You verified with the number that you had, not the number that they gave you or that was in
Mhm.
that communication. You independently verified. And ultimately, that's what saved you.
No,
So,
and that's exactly it, right? Because like again, when you're prospecting a lot of companies, right? And I want like a lot of the listeners out there who are listening to this show right now are going to listen to it on the replay later.
yeah.
You don't remember everybody who you're going after, right? And you don't know if somebody you talked to happened to give out your email address, they didn't tell you. So there's a lot of situations. But again, like anytime somebody comes to me and like wants me to bid on freight and I don't necessarily remember who they are, I like again, like that was the original one. And then when they accepted the quote, I'm like, I just got to double check this because again, when that first email came in, I Googled the company, I Googled the address, and I'm like, well, shit, they are real. They want me to pick up here in Arizona. Like maybe I did stop by. I don't remember. And then when they awarded the quote, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to send over some information. And I'm like, I just got to double check this. And that's when I had saw it, right? Because it's just one of those situations where you are one thing away. And when you're in a freight market like we're in right now, Melanie, from a business development standpoint, opportunities are few and far between, right? So like when one does fall into your lap, you want to think that it's legit, but it's like you do have to take a couple of seconds, take a deep breath, maybe get a coworker involved. Hey, can you just double check this here? Because all they need is access to your computer. And then boom, it's done.
Yep, absolutely. There's a few things that you can do. Verify that MC and that DOT status for every new carrier, right? Confirm those bank and even other details verbally using the contact information you have. It's not enough to verify through email anymore. You can use email authentication tools that help sometimes, SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. I also, if you work in a company or on a team, consider creating like a shared, I don't know, like a watch list of suspicious entities so that other team members don't fall for follow-up attempts, right?
Yeah.
And then just require digital carrier package with secure document handling. Those are just a few things you can do in addition to just using your common sense. Don't get rushed. Don't have a sense of urgency. It's okay to take a step back and take a deep breath and just kind of ask yourself, does all of this make sense?
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you, right? And that's what it is it's like having a plan is also very crucial in the moment, right? Like what is your action plan? And if there's one thing that I've kind of come to realize is like SOPs are not common. All right. Having anything processes are not common out there at all. But I feel like those are like those simple steps that you can take right there. Like everybody action items can do today. But it's like what are some like I think the bad thing, the gift and the curse of social media is everybody has an opinion. The gift is there's a lot of really good information out there, but the curse is there's a lot of really bad information out there, and there is not an easy way to like really delineate the differences between the two. What are some what are some myths out there that you've heard about logistics companies right now in regards to like cybersecurity, cyber freight theft, and all of that stuff?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the one, I'm too small to be on a criminal's radar. We know that's not true. Another big one, though, is that, okay, so a company has an IT person or maybe even a small IT staff that's handling their cybersecurity. And so this is a comfort myth I deal with all too often. And unfortunately, it's typically after a company has been compromised. And I can tell you a real story that I was involved with personally that illustrates this really well. It was back in November of 2024 that a trucking company reached out to us after coming into the office and getting a ransom note on their computer that literally said, "Hello, your files have been stolen and encrypted." I mean, can you imagine? So this was actually the second time they'd been attacked, which holds true to the statistic that tells us that once a company is hit, they're more likely to be hit a second time. Okay.
Mhm.
So they had a small IT staff that they thought was handling their security, but their entire website was down. The CEO's machine was encrypted, Criminals were moving through their system. They had some backups in the cloud, but we couldn't access them because no one had the encryption key. And this was a company that thought they were doing things right. They had some cybersecurity in place, but here's the kicker. No one was monitoring the alerts. They were coming in from multiple security tools, but they were misconfigured, and they were going to a security folder that no one was monitoring, okay? To make things worse, the company didn't have an incident response plan. So when the attack happened, no one really knew what to do. Now, they didn't want to lock down their systems, so they delayed some really critical decisions, which gave the criminals even more time to do further damage. So we later discovered things like their cloud manager was never set up, their firewalls weren't adopted. And I wish I was making this up, but they had passwords like password 123.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I know. So go ahead.
No, I was going to say, because it's like, again, like cloud APIs, all of this stuff is like topics right now, right? There's third-party software providers that you're using out there. So again, I think most people might only look at their internal operations and be like, hey, we're good. But it's like, are you vetting other people who your system is connected to, right? And then what, like, and I feel like that's another oversight that kind of comes along with this here, Melanie, is like, as soon as you have an API with another third-party vendor or something like that, that's exposure, right? Like no matter what you want to think or do in that moment. And then, again, you think like, oh, it's on the cloud, it's fine. Yeah, but is it? And that's the thing. You got to be I truly feel like you got to be a skeptic at heart with a lot of this stuff.
You do. That whole my data is safe in the cloud is just another really common comfort myth that I hear. What I'd say about the cloud is that it's not some magical force field, Chris. I mean, at its simplest, it's just someone else's server hosted somewhere else. And here's this. Cyber criminals know they only have to hack one cloud-based vendor to gain access to hundreds, if not thousands of businesses. So what a lot of people don't know is that cloud-based providers operate under what's called the shared responsibility model. And what that means is that they secure their infrastructure, but you are responsible for securing your data, your applications, and your access to it. So just because you outsource your technology does not mean you're outsourcing your risk. And so when evaluating a cloud-based vendor, you should also, as you mentioned, evaluate their API security. API security is about how those software systems interact with one another. So, your API should be secured so that no one can spoof a request or hijack your data or access information that they shouldn't. And I kind of differentiate the two. Cloud-based vendor security asks, can I trust this company? But API secures how the apps from those vendors talk to each other. And just the ultimate lesson here is that having data in the cloud does not eliminate the need to have proper security. Vendor security and API security is 100% your security concern too.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Right. And it's like, you should be out there that's one thing, because, obviously there's a lot of, just look at AI, for example. It's literally 87,000 headlines a day about why AI is everything right now. But again, like if you're going to go out there and hire some of these companies and you haven't asked them, what is your cybersecurity protections in place? What are your guys' plans? How is my stuff protected? Again, it's just another thing. And it's just like, I don't want to ever sound like an alarmist on a lot of this stuff, but like, this is a very real possibility. I mean, how many times do emails come through, text messages come through? I mean, Jesus, just on my iPhone, I get probably 30 texts a week from some of these scam about, you need to update your profile at the DMV, and all it takes is one accidental click on something and they have access to your stuff, right? So to sit here and think it's not going to happen to you, I think is probably one of the more ignorant things you could think in today's day and age. But again, it's like, it always goes down to like, are you training your people? Because you're like, every team member is the weakest link here, right? Doesn't matter if you're a CEO or a frontline person. If you have access to company technology, whether it's a laptop, cell phone, computer, desktop, it does not matter. You are all at risk here, right? Like, it's not like they just go after mid-level managers, right? Like literally everybody is at risk.
Yep. Yeah. One thing over the years that's just become crystal clear to me is that people, not tech, are often the difference between a close call and a catastrophe. And that's why I talk so much about transforming everyday employees into cyber warriors. Awareness isn't just a checkbox, Chris. It is the front line. Okay.
Mhm.
And depending on what you read, over 80% of breaches trace back to human behavior, whether that's clicking on a link that looked legit, reusing a password on personal and business accounts, or even just missing those subtle red flags that we wish we'd caught sooner. And what's tricky is, the same traits we love in great employees, like being helpful and quick to respond and eager to solve problems, are exactly what criminals exploit.
Mhm.
So we're not talking about careless people. We're talking about good people being manipulated in clever ways.
Mhm.
And, I always give three little quick tips to turn your team into cyber warriors. And one is practice makes prepared. Prepared is powerful. You don't get strong by going to the gym once. And the same thing holds true with cyber. And the second is to build this blame free, see something, say something culture. Got to let people know that reporting something sketchy, even if they've already clicked on it, it's still a win. It's not a failure because the sooner that threat is flagged, the easier it is to be contained. Well,
Mhm.
what could have been a major breach just going to feel like a blip if someone raises their hand early. And then lastly is make security easy, not annoying. If cybersecurity feels like a hassle, people are going to find workarounds. And listen, I get it. Remembering long, unique passwords is just a pain, but simple
Yeah.
tools like a password manager remove some of that friction. So, I encourage you to partner with your IT team to build security that doesn't slow people down.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, I mean, I'm glad you started with those steps here because like that was kind of like my ending of like how do we tie this all together? Like what are some simple steps people can follow? Like what is because people are going to inevitably listen to this and they're going to be like, I got to do something. What are a couple action items that any normal person can do today, Melanie, to start to get the ball rolling on starting to build up a cyber plan or like a protection plan for their data and their information?
Number one is going to be to start with a thorough risk assess to identify your company's specific vulnerabilities. Chris, you can't secure what you don't know exists.
Mhm.
And then begin implementing that multi-layered security or just, partner with an MSP who can. Not everybody's a cybersecurity expert. So just like a truck needs multiple safety systems, brakes and airbags and cameras, strong cybersecurity requires multiple protective layers too. And then I could go on, develop an incident response plan so everyone knows their role and no time is wasted when seconds count. Test those backups, make an inventory list of your APIs, start having conversations and vetting your vendors. And lastly, consider cyber insurance. But I want to say that with the understanding that it's not a substitute for cybersecurity.
Mhm.
In fact, to qualify for insurance, you have to have proper security in place in the first place.
Mhm.
The good news is that when you have the right security in place, you qualify for the best coverages, the lowest rates. We see our customers saving in upwards of 60% off their premiums when they have our specific cybersecurity in place. So when you look at it that way, the savings on insurance can actually offset some of the cost of security if it's done right.
No, 100%. And I think that, you know, we need to understand that with, again, AI being the topic that it is out there, Melanie, and I remember a specific example that was spoken about at a cyber conference, and it was the deep fake that you're talking about, a control. I don't know if it was the CFO who called, it was the control, somebody who had access to the company's funds got a deep fake phone call from the CFO and was told, hey, we need to send, and it was like, I believe in the 7 or 8 figures, authorize a payment. And it was clear, right? Because like the problem was is this is how the company like did that. It was a phone call, and that was like not out of the ordinary to receive a phone call from the CFO about authorizing payment for stuff, right? So again, all they need is just one, and again, it was an unsuspecting individual who had a clean record at the company, like model employee, everything. And one thing, we're talking 7, 8 figures. And again, I could be off on the monetary amount. All I know is it was enough that I was like, holy shit, like that is a ton of money and all that it takes, right? So again, it's like having a plan in place. All right, if you're going to do that, right, inside of your company, what can you do for that multi-factor authentication here, right? Hey, cool that you're calling me to authorize this, but now I need somebody else to do it. Do something where there's a checks and balance system in place there, because all it takes is one thing like that, right? And then all of a sudden they get access to your money, and you don't know if that ACH payment that's going through, now they have your bank account and your routing number, and there's a lot of shit that they can do if you know. So again, it's just like just having a plan in place, having a conversation, and starting today. You got to do it, because it's only going to get worse. In my opinion, I'm not a cyber expert. It's only going to get worse, Melanie, in the coming years.
It's definitely not going away. They're coming for us, whether we're ready or not. So
I think they're already here.
yep, that's why it's so important that we have these conversations and we continue to spread the good word and fight the good fight, because, you know, we have to band together as an industry and as a country. This industry is the backbone of our economy and our country. It keeps our country running and our people supplied with all the things that they're used to having at their fingertips. And we have to lock arms and continue talking about this and working with companies, even making it a safe place for companies to talk about these things. We got hacked. This is what we were ransomed. This is how they did it. We can't be embarrassed to talk about it, even within our own industry, because we learn from each other.
No, I agree. Melanie, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. How does anybody reach out to you to find out more about what you have going on?
Well, I'm very active on LinkedIn, so you can look me up at just Melanie Padron on LinkedIn. For more information on cybersecurity solutions for trucking companies, you can go to itarchitects.com. We have a full section of blog articles that speak directly to the trucking industry and gives ideas for how you can get started protecting, securing your fleet. I'm also available for speaking engagements to groups who could benefit from someone who speaks human over tech and who makes cybersecurity a little less overwhelming and more doable.
I love it. Melanie, thank you so much for your time. That's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys cannot find Melanie at all out there, hit me up. I will gladly put you guys in contact with her. But at the end of the day, you guys, if you got value in what you heard, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling really ambitious after this one, which you should be, rank the show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you saw value, your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang. Window down, yelling out money, anything. Hey, ooh, got the foot